our worship is essentially our honoring God, right? That's what we do. We are honoring God with all our hearts and minds and heart and body. That's what we do. We are honoring God there. It's God is so amazing, and God is this greatest love, and we go there to say, God, thank you, to respond to this love. But that worship goes to what John said. If you say you love God but you don't love your neighbor, you're lying. You're not loving God. So to honor God, it's a need for me, Mark, to honor you. Unless I honor you fully, unless I welcome you into my community, unless I take care of you deeply, I cannot honor my God. Augustine's question, what do I love when I love my God, in the Confessions? It's a question that we always have to ask in our worship services. What do I love when I'm here loving God through my worship? And unless I welcome you, unless I say, let's eat together, there's no purpose for the worship. So I think the worship is a powerful place that we are rehearsing a new life there. Right? We are showing to the world how life should be. This is how life should be. In the worship, we are being nourished and strengthened and empowered. I mean, my dream is that my students and my people will go to church with such eagerness. Like this boy who would go to church, who would leave home 2 hours before the worship service. The Bible school in the morning, and he would stay sitting on the steps of the church 2 hours before. He was 7 years old, waiting for the church to open because he didn't want to miss a single minute. So that's what I'm hoping, that this space, this moment of us together is so important that I cannot live without it. It's like how the African Americans saw the worship. If you ask them, they can only make it because they are in church on Sunday. They can only make the week if in church they are empowered. I mean, that's what the church does. I can only live through my week if I am in church. It's the sense like this moment in worship. It's when God makes me somebody. That's why we learn from the African American church. When you're on the streets in our society, you are called a nobody, but then in church you are somebody. So the worship is this empowerment, is to help us to make the connection between the in and the out, between the altar and the world, between our worship service and our life. There is an enormous connection, and we, instead of letting our culture make our church be what the culture is, which is more like centering into themselves, our culture teaches us to isolate ourselves, to live on our own. And so the church is to say, no, our life can only be if in communion, if lived with somebody else. I mean, the church that moment is to transform the world, is to say, here is the message that can transform the world, that can transform people's lives, that can transform countries, and it can transform the economy, it can transform the cultural background, it can transform the ways in which we organize ourselves, it can change the ways in which we use our money. And I think this is a special moment. But we have to go beyond that 1 hour of segregation that we have to be a more of a open community, to embrace others and to make the connections between the in and the out. If we are able at that moment to make the connections between what is inside, what is outside, so then we can there rehearse a new life in Jesus Christ for the world.